two. We're going to be recording this session in order to be able to deploy this to other folks that couldn't be on it. This is going to be a big project in the U.S. I wouldn't be surprised if each one of you does more than one survey in your areas. So, and then I think it'll be a little bit easier to keep keep it moving. However, please put your questions in chat. Even if we don't answer right away, we'll definitely get back to them at the end. Or if we don't have time, we'll follow up with you and make sure the question gets answered. So please put the questions in chat because we're going to keep that. I'll go over the agenda real quick. Initially, Chris is going to go over the overall project goals, both, discussing a typical office and what's happening for these surveys, and then a high-level design. I'm going to go over some operational items, how to check in and out, working with the POC, the daily checkoff sheet we've developed. We'll both hit HipChat real quick because this is a critical tool in the process that we've been using, and we want to make sure that it's, everybody's aware on how it should be used. The daily checkoff sheet is an Excel sheet we use to report the status every night. Then Chris will go into the actual survey tool, and then into survey tips. So I think now, if you're ready, Chris, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you for the project goals piece of it, and I think you can grab the screen too, right?
Alrighty, I guess you can see my screen. What I've got is just a basic slide at the moment of the actual Nestle project, the Nestle site as it is. End user customer, as you can see, is Nestle. They've got quite a few locations in throughout the world. We've actually been working on this project for nearly 12 months now, and we're transforming their current telephony system or telephony infrastructure. So basically what we're having to do is visit each site, have a look at what they've got currently installed, take details, record this. We'll go into it a bit later on, the tool that we're using to record the data. But in essence, what the infrastructure is today, you currently have the public switch telephone network. That could be any provider, or it could be multiple providers even. This then tends to come into an office location or a campus location. Then you'll have slightly incoming PSTN lines, and this will then be met by like an NTE and NTU, network termination unit, basically where the incoming lines from the street enter into a comms room or a comms area within the building. Then there'll be, as it's North America, there'll be like a T1 circuit, either an ISDN primary rate circuit, coming from the NTU or the NTE. That is then connected typically via like a straight RJ48 cable going into an E1, or sorry, I'm, as you can guess by the accent, I'm English, so I'll keep referring to E1, but for you guys on that side of the water it'd be T1. So we've got a digital circuit coming in and it's going onto a line card into the telephone system. The current telephone systems, they are various different types from just about every manufacturer out there. It could be a Cisco call manager operated system. They could have Avaya systems. It could be an Alcatel. It could be a Nortel. It could be whoever. The real estate for the telephony infrastructure is a big mix, different ages, and what they're looking to do is migrate away from the current telephony infrastructure. However, doing this survey, we need to be very, very accurate in what we're recording with the data. Because as a couple of examples I put on there, as you guys are telco, from telco backgrounds, you know that there's various analog phones out there, various digital phones, fax machines. There's also some other type of analog devices. There could even be elevator emergency phones, which could potentially be connected to the current telephone system, or there could be emergency phones throughout the building. We need to know this information. Additionally, you may have door entry system, car park barriers, which are all running analog. Again, this needs to be recorded. Other items which could be hanging off of the current telephone system, and obviously the telephone system can come in various shapes and sizes depending on the size and the amount of users. Other elements could be voicemail, which could be in the telephone system, interactive voice response or an IVR. There could also be call center functionalities. This is details of what needs to be captured. Also, they may also have some wonderful newfangled voice over IP devices running as well. They could be running multiple systems. Again, this is data that needs to be captured. One additional thing on here, there's a little grey cloud down the bottom. As I'm from the UK and it's always raining over here, there's a thing called a G-WAN or BT1 voice. This is a private circuit between the Nestle offices. So typically there may be some call routing, or routing for your words, on the PBX, that if a call for another Nestle location, for instance the main headquarters could be Nestle in Switzerland, rather than pushing the call out via, say, Verizon, the PSTN, it could have some special routing. As soon as you see these specific numbers, push it across our own internal global wide area network, or the BT1 voice. So you need to really go in there with your eyes open and prod the people in terms of how the telephone system's configured. Typically there will be someone available to get you this information. However, as you'll find out a bit later on, it's been proving kind of difficult getting some of this full details. Either the person may no longer work with the company, or they work in another office. You may be in a small office where there may be only, say, less than 100 users, and the telephone system's small. No one knows how to configure it, etc. Additionally, what we're looking to migrate this system to is Skype for Business. So what we're looking to do is insert a voice over IP gateway or a session border controller. The gateway is by a company called Sonos. They're not the wonderful headset people or the speaking people. It's SONUS. We'll be using potentially 3 models of the gateways. The one in the picture I'm showing you there, it's basically called a Sonos 2000. There could be numerous of these devices on the one site, or the other model could be a Sonos 1000. Typically the 1000 unit has analog capabilities, so you can physically plug an analog phone or a fax machine into some cards on the rear of this unit. However, as we've seen in North America, and we are seeing in some of the high-level designs, there is a large amount of analog presence available. So there is another device called a Sonos Tenor, which is just a pure analog box. That will then take the analog connections into the device, and that will then connect via the IP network, and that will then allow communication via Skype for Business, or for those of you who are familiar with Link, it's the new version of that. The survey or the project is split into at least 3 elements. The most crucial element of the network or of the project is the element here, the survey. This is classed as a thing called a D2. It's just a work package. A D2 package basically allows for an engineer to turn up to site, meet with a point of contact, and then start conducting a survey. The survey will cover 3 aspects: the comms room, what's installed in the comms room, where you identify the incoming PSTN circuits or the NTU, and you will then look at the wiring which is going from the NTU and to where it connects onto the PBX. You will then decide where it's best, or you may be told where the gateway will be installed. We would need you to record the circuit ID of the incoming PSTN line, and then record what card or what port it is terminating on the telephone system. Because when we come on to the next stage of the project, after the survey is complete, we will then move on to a next stage where we come in and install a gateway. It's crucial that all your data gathering from the D2 element is correct, because bills of material as well as cables are all based on the input you guys will be putting into the tool. That is, in essence, the D2 package gathering. There will be some previous telephone conversations or various meetings between our customer Unify and Nestle, who would have had a highlands and already covered quite a few elements. The next bit is where you guys come in, is the feet on the street and the eyes to have a look. So there will be some base information that I'll be sharing with you in a minute. But this in essence is the project where the customer has PSTN circuit, or numerous PSTN circuits. I mean, we have one site at the moment where there's over 16 T1s coming into a building, and that's then being disseminated through, I think it's 5 different campus buildings. So you may be finding multiple rooms, multiple cabinet areas, or multiple comms rooms where you'll be installing the gateways. In that site, there's elements where you've got analog PSTN circuits coming in, and you've also got other buildings which just have T1 circuits coming in. Quite a lot of work for you guys to capture, but we would rather you guys focus more on the quality and make sure you get all the right information. If you're ever not getting the detail quick enough, please let Jacques or myself know as soon as possible. We will raise. Okay. The next bit I'll want to show you is an example of a high-level design. As I mentioned earlier on, iTech's customer is Unify. Unify are working closely with Nestle, and there is a tool which we're using to record all of this information. It's a thing called GVTA, and for those of you that don't want to fall asleep tonight, it's called a Global Voice Transformation Accelerator. So I know you'll remember that when you have a beer or something later. There's a high-level design provided for each site, or pulled out for each site. This information is gathered based on previous conversations which Unified engineers would have had with the Nestle voice team. This site, as an example, is a high-level design from a site which is due to be surveyed within the next couple of days. This is in Bloomington. Incidentally, all of the sites have a 5-digit or 5-character coding. This site is called US BLM. So it doesn't take mastermind to realise what that stands for. So whenever we're referring to a project, you may find us asking about USBLM or whatever site you're looking at. So just stepping through this high-level design. Just skip past this one. At the moment, it will give you an overview on the actual project itself. High-level status is in draft, country US, and the rest of the information is in draft. It's down to us or yourselves to actually go and gather this detail in as much detail as possible. The site name and address. Believe it or not, there is some sites where they have a couple of addresses because there are different lines of business which may work out of the same location, so we need to be quite accurate on where we actually turn up.
Hey, Chris,
On this site, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think your GVTA, the high-level design, opened up. Are you intending to share that
Can
right
you?
now?
Yes, yes.
I don't think I only see your desktop right now.
Oh, right, okay.
Maybe it's on the wrong
Um,
screen.
Possible. Can you see the subject thing now?
No, I see just your daughters.
Okay. Uh,
Maybe the PDF never opened.
let me try it now. Try and drag it. It's going to a different display. Hang on. Helps if I select the correct monitor.
We got it now. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Just jump back to the initial couple of pages. Global Voice Transformation Accelerator. This is the site code, USBLM. Just a subject overview. Have the location, Nestle, the address. There's only one location here, or one operating business unit, single site. There is differences between offices and factories as well. Overview, high level again, high availability. There's a redundant MPLS network. This detail has been found out before from the previous meetings that Unify and Nestle have had. There is another element here, a thing called SBA. This actually stands for Survivable Branch Appliance. On sites which do not have a high bandwidth or an MPLS link, they are likely to need an SBA. The SBA allows for the Skype for Business services to be delivered to that site. This is a device that resides within the gateway, the Sonos gateway. All we need for that is just an IP address, but we can cover that when we get to the individual specific gateways. In this site as well, they've indicated there's only going to be one gateway. There's also, at the moment, there's only one E1. The PBX is going to be replaced by Link or Skype for Business. Then there's the amount of analog devices. There's 76. So there's 76 analog endpoints. Existing DID ranges, direct inward dialing ranges, they're going to reuse those. There's no new planned circuits. Also as well, they're going to have phones deployed by Link, additional DID ranges. So it's pretty straightforward survey, this one. The lower part of this, planned location of UCC, Unified Communications components. It looks like they're going to be putting it all in the server room. However, we do need a bit more detail on that. It will be part of the survey to gather that information. MDF for the analog part, they're telling us that it's all allocated in the server room. So it's not the next line over decentralized analog gateways. If you have the circuits coming into another building or another part of the location, it will be noted there. Also the approach for the migration, they're going to do this in a couple of waves. They're going to have less than 51, it's going to be wave 1 migration, but at the end of the day you guys don't need to worry about that. Just a little bit more information on the actual site. Starting at the top, you have the PSTN fixed network. We have the carrier WAN network termination equipment, or that little blue box as showed in the previous PowerPoint slide. So currently today they have one T1 circuit. This is coming into an Avaya Definity. The main incoming number, as you can see, it is there. And then there is some internal telephone ranges. Also connected to the Avaya, we know it's UPS powered. There is a paging system. There's voicemail. Also connected to the Avaya, there's 60 analog phone devices, be it like FXS, station side, could be handsets or fax machines. There's also a billing system as well. So again, you need to find out more detail, which will be on the survey about this. Additionally, there's a DECT system, so we need to make sure we record more detail about the DECT. There is reception operators. Sometimes you'll go to locations and there won't be any operators, receptions, people there. It'll be an automated response system. So what the high-level design is based on the conversations between Nestle and the Unify guys is.
And then Chris, I mean, just so they know, it's not, just because it's on that paper doesn't mean it's right either.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we're there to question them, to verify the information is correct they've given, and dictate them to record their answers. So at the moment, the proposed solution, dependent and subject to the survey, is they're going to install one Sonos 1000 SBC or gateway. Contained within this device, there's going to be two T1 interfaces. There's going to be some FXO interfaces, so analog extensions of the SBC, as well as some analog station ports available. Additionally, they're going to install some other gateways as well. The main difference between a Sonos or an SBC 1000 is that this will act as the main gateway, but it doesn't have a high density analog port count. As is indicated here, there's up to 76 FXS ports. They're going to be implementing up to 3 24-port analog devices here. So in essence, there's 4 gateways going to be installed in this location. So it's going to be an upstream installation, so basically calls will come in from the PSTN, cross the first T1, and it will use transparently switch between the Sonos SBC to any of the other functionalities which are required on the Definity. So at the moment, it's just going to be a straightforward transition connection. That is the high-level design for you guys, just to get round your heads before you walk in the building, so you know what you're going to expect, or give you an idea. As Jacques has mentioned, there has been times and occasions where this is just an indication. However, it might be totally different when you do get to site. You may find that there's more T1 circuits. However, some of those circuits may be ceased and no longer viable, or it may be other comms equipment. This is where it comes down to doing the site survey. Then ending up on this slides here, they tend to have a summary page. So in essence here, as I mentioned, there's one T1 on the design. There's no basic rate ISDN. It's only us crazy people over here in Europe that tend to have basic rate. There is a pager system on the telephone system. There's a billing system. So as you can see, the PBX will still live for quite a while. It's not going to be switched off after we've installed a Skype for Business system. There's DECT system or no DECT, but please check that, because I've seen on the slide that there is potential a DECT system, but we need to record this. There's a redundant WAN, so there's no need for a survivable branch appliance. And as you can see here, there's just a summary. Any questions? Do you want to take it back, Jack?
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to the mute button. Yep, I will take it back. Chris, let me know when you can see the agenda.
Yep.
All right, so I'm just going to go over the operational review, a couple items here just to keep in mind. And again, if you have any questions, please put it in chat, and Chris will be looking at that. The scheduling days and work hours, we typically try to schedule these for, 9 to 5, 8 to 4, something like that. We're dependent on a lot of resources to come in and help us, so that depends on it. The work hours and the scheduling days are typically like this. A D2 survey, which is what we're talking about today primarily, is anywhere from 2 to 4 days on site. The install is anywhere 1 to 3 days on site. There's a cutover and a support mechanism. All said and done, as I think an average site is probably 8 to 10 days of work. We really need to be since we're relying on others and working with others closely, we really need to be cognizant of HipChat and how we're logging in and out of the site and the data we're gathering, which we'll talk about in a second. But a few things about working with the POC. Some have been great. They've all been very helpful, but they're not all IT/telco folks. So we have to keep that in mind, which is one of the reasons why once you go over the GVTA, and if you're a highly experienced tech, then you might say to yourself, well, we could probably gather all this in one day, but we are relying on other people and scheduling other people in to help us. The POC might only be a conduit. So I just bring that up because we don't want to become frustrated on site. We basically, we're going to go over the daily checkoff, which will help us track that we're asking for the right information and when we got it. But, in essence is, we really want to talk to them, get what we need in front of them, ask once and move on. We can't be held up by a lot of follow-up because really that's not why we're there. One thing I don't think that we've really been doing is a POC meeting and agenda. You guys should, you folks should sit down with the point of contact with the statement of work and the guide printed out, and as the guide says, that might take 2 hours the first morning and go over every step. And really, I think some of the challenges we have had was because I don't know that we're communicating very well with the point of contact, what we need from them, what our requirements are and what we need them to do. From both sides of the perspective of either a point of contact that's not a technical person or even is a technical person. The technical person is going to want to say, oh, I already have all that, I have all that, and move too fast, and then we miss things. Or the non-technical person is going to be very overwhelmed in all this information we're asking for and really probably doesn't even know how to get it. So those first hour or 2, 3 hours, whatever it takes in the morning is critically important, I think, that first morning to really sit down and say, this is what I need from you, POC. And I think that'll make the other couple of days go a lot better. I got to tell you, I think both Chris and I would agree that if we take 4 hours for that meeting, we got to tack on 4 hours to the end of the survey. I think we're happier with that than trying to track this stuff back, a week later, Chris. I mean, I think you can agree to that.
Most definitely.
So, time is important and the cost is important, but, we're finding at the end of the 2 days or 4 days, even though it should be plenty of time, we don't have everything, and it's typically not the tech's fault. It's just that, we're running out of time because we're going back and forth with the point of contact saying, did you get this, did you get that? We want to sit down with them, outline our expectations, what we need from them, move on. We ask them again, we log that we asked them, and then we move on. And every day we're reporting that back to iTech and Unify. And I think most of our challenges have, even though it's not spelled correctly, most of our challenges have been really around, not communicating properly or setting expectations with the local point of contact. Not only the tech and the site, but that goes to all of us, from Nestle down to the tech. I don't think we've done a good job with that point of contact, who really is almost the most important person in this survey. So really quick with HipChat, unless Chris, you have anything to add to that?
No, fine.
So HipChat real quick. You guys, I think you've all been on it. I mean, I'm just going to put one up here. We use it from everything from, identifying the site, who's doing it, when they're starting, checking in and out. We think it's really important for these, because if we only have 2 days and we have to go into a third, or we don't have everything, to be able to go back and say, look, the tech was in the parking lot at whatever time, and we waited, an hour and a half for the point of contact, or the point of contact had a meeting, or you know, we're 2 hours into this survey, point of contact had to leave for a meeting, I'm going to work on this. It needs to be a chronological list of what we're doing. So if we do need to go back or justify the time, we have it. A couple things about the HipChat. If you open it up, this happens to be open. You can see HipChat, right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So this happens to be open in the web app. You can actually open it on your desktop or web app or phone. But if you look over here, I just want to point out, here's where you'll typically find the files. This is all pictures you've taken, and this is also where we put like the high-level design, you know, any kind of information that we think might be useful. We try to put there in this chat before you go to site. You have it on your work order as well, but we put it in here so you can reference it real quick. We also have links here. Let me, I don't know why. So like you see here, you have the high-level design right here that'll open in a PDF. We have links. This is the actual survey link right in chat. And then if we have to have a go-to-meeting session with the tech while at a site, we can do it through chat. I also, just so you know, you also can do this all through your mobile. And just to point those, the same concept, but just to point that out real quick, here's the screen on the phone. When you need to send a file, you hit the paperclip catcher and send a video. You can send an image that you've already have in your gallery. You can see who's on it by the information. All documents you can open right from your phone, and the links as well. You probably don't want to do the link for the survey tool on your phone, but it's there if you need it. And really, we have a private chat we can use if you have any, you know, more company questions, but really we want everything in there. Ask POC for this. You know, you know, especially wait times, or if you have a question, there's 4 or 5 people monitoring these chats usually, so, you know, we really try to get in there quick to answer your questions. If you don't get an answer to a question within 2 or 3 minutes, you can do the @ sign and me or Chris or whomever, and it'll send us an email that you're waiting for us, you know, whatever your question is. You know, and really we try to use the HipChat as our focal point for communication because it is a good record. Chris, anything to add to that?
No, that's fine.
So the next thing is the daily checkoff sheet. This needs to be, I would recommend when you get to the site that you are, you know, that you have it on your laptop. You know, I didn't really talk about that, but when you get to the site, most sites will allow you to get on their Wi-Fi, their guest network, and a lot of techs, what they're doing is working right from the laptop with all of this. This seems like a little bit of work here to do this, but we really need this filled out and submitted in chat every night. If you're doing it on your PC, you can just throw it in as an Excel file. You can drag and drop files right into chat. And it's probably 90%, maybe 95% accurate as to this is really goes along with the GVTA survey. When you put something in GVTA, you need to put the date in here that you put it in. You don't have to do this real time. I would, but you know, by the end of the day one, you need to have this filled out as much as possible. This is the person responsible, and this is the key up here. So IT is the IT folks. POC is the point of contact. TEL is a telco provider. It could be either the client or an outside resource. The most important is the information requested here almost. So any part of this, like when you request all the list of DIDs, or there could be 6,000 of them, we need to put in here Anderson. Let's say the point of contact's Anderson. Put in Anderson and the date you asked and the time you asked. This is critical because what's going to happen that, remember, Unify and iTech are before us in the U.S., so they're looking at this 6 hours before we're up. So hopefully between Unify and Chris and Nestle, they're taking this report and saying, okay, they've asked for the IT and they don't have it. They've asked for this and they don't have it. And it's really helps move the survey along, not only to show what we're doing day to day, but more importantly, to get us the help we need for the next morning. So hopefully by the next morning, the local point of contact has an email already saying, this is where you get this if there was an issue. If you ask for this information, let's say, you ask for this information right here, you put their name, and they have no idea what you're talking about, put that. POC didn't know, or POC didn't understand, or POC doesn't know where to get it. And that'll trigger us to help you as well. This is really important. I know it seems like duplicate effort, but it will help you in the long run to get all the information you need. Again, when you put it in the GVTA, the good, clean information, you still need to put a date in here that you did it. You can do it by hand or on your computer, but we need it every night. Anything, and this is really important. Anything to add to this, Chris?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're going to cover some of this elements on the next part anyway when we look at the survey tool. But as Jacques has said, we do need, if you've asked a question, you can even record it in a GVTA or on that sheet, because we've had it where IP address information is missing, something basic as an IP address. And we've lost days on this before where we've gone backwards and forwards. So if we can say, yep, it was requested on day 1, and we still haven't got it at the end of day 2, it's your problem basically. But at the moment, a lot of the blame seems to be going down, well, I was never asked that question. So this is why it's crucial to make sure this sheet is filled in.
And it may be simply because they're not, they're not the IT person, and there's a lot we're throwing at them that first morning. But
yeah.
we don't want you to have to keep on following up, and that's what we end up doing. We did a bunch in South America, and the tech is running around in circles. Okay, did you get this yet? Did you get this yet? That's why we set up the system. You ask once and move on. You document you asked and move on. You don't have to go back 16 times. They either have it or they don't. And you can feel free to review this sheet with them every night as well before you give it to us. All right, I haven't seen any. Somebody's audio dropped, but I'm not sure. Just try to log back in, I guess. I'm going to mute out, Chris, because I think this is you, right? GVTA tool, unless I missed something in these other ones.
No, that's fine for a moment.
All right, it's yours.
Alrighty.
I see the high-level design.
Okay. Still seeing high-level design?
I see the go-to meeting. I see you change another tab. There you go. Yeah.
Where's it gone? Okay, when you get to go to a site, in your work order, Jacques would have sent you a link. This is a blind link which takes you to the online tool, the GVTA tool. This is where you'll be logged on as like an anonymous user. So you don't have to have your own account created. This will take you just to the individual site where you're working on. As an example I mentioned earlier on, we're looking on the Bloomington site. So we're logged directly in. We're an anonymous user. So all you can see is the basic information. You can't see any other sites. I actually have an account log on to this, so I can see all the sites, but in the morning all I'll do is I'll just search on the code, site code, and then we'll then bring up the specific site survey details for me.
Hey,
so this will be the initial page.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just scrolling back. Is there any of these questions that would be useful for them to have an answer before you start, or is it all okay?
Just trying to look for them. I've responded
Okay,
a couple of.
I just didn't know if it was important for them to know before you started.
If you have 2 buildings, 2 10 analog devices, and 2 SBCs. Point
I don't
in
think
case.
any of them need the answer right now, right?
Sorry?
I think they're all okay for now, right?
I believe so. I did respond to Brian on chat for that one.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. All right, I'm just scrolling through the chat, so. Okay, so let's make a start. So you'll get instructions for a web address. So typically you will need to make sure you've got access. There is Wi-Fi within the Nestle locations. There should be pretty good Wi-Fi. I mean, compared to some locations in South America where it was horrendous, it was working in some parts of the building and some parts it weren't. If for whatever reason you cannot get Wi-Fi access, drop a quick message on the HIP chat, having problems getting Wi-Fi access, so Jack and I know what's happening, because I'll then report that back to the Unify project manager, and probably send a phone, or they'll make a phone call to the site and find out what's going on. Alternatively, if the point of contact has his own laptop available, you could sit down with them, him or her, and use their laptop. However, they probably want to do all the typing in, which is good, but you can work with them, use their laptop. You will not be able to connect your laptop to the Nestle network at all. It's not approved for us to connect our onto the actual physical Nestle network with our devices. They're not Nestle approved, so we have to rely on Wi-Fi. It is a real-time tool, so whatever you're putting on here, it will be recorded, so there shouldn't be any problems if your PC got corrupt or something. Drop-down menu you'll go to, there's a few tabs you can try and get into. So you need to go to a thing called Site Data Gathering View. With that, the page will then change, and then you're greeted with 8 tabs on the top. However, don't think, oh great, I've only got 8 tabs to do. There are several more hidden behind these tabs. Each of the tabs will have a general subject. This is where you'll find some details have already been pre-entered. If you've got green ticks, it means the data is valid and it is acceptable. The last button here, where it says Finish Questionnaire, there is kind of a self-check tool which will run through the whole of the survey from all the various sub-menus and subsections and verify and give you a summary report on if there are elements missing. Unfortunately, we have it with Unify that at the end of a D2 survey, people will just quickly click on Finish, and then as soon as they see some elements which are not filled in, they come and complain to us. So in this essence here, they've got the site, Nestle United States, Bloomington. Migration options is pretty straightforward. There are drop-down menus, so you don't have to type in all the detail as much as possible. If it's a greenfield site, because there are some locations where they may be moving to a greenfield, you can just choose whatever type of site it is there. For site-specific, just follow the rest of the drop-down menus. As you can see here, the site is in English. Obviously, we was doing some South America, so we had Spanish, also the various different languages for Sky for Business clients. Preferred location of the PSTN gateways. Again, this is only pre-filled information via Unify, where they may have, it may not actually happen in here. Again, check that it's actually going to be installed in the data equipment room. It could go in the PBX, it could go in the server room, or it could go in a basement room somewhere else, or who knows where it's going to go. This is where you guys need to come out. Components of Windows iOS. Just keep this one as default. As mentioned there, gateway can be used with an SPA. Power supply rules. For the Sonos 2000, that is the only of the gateways which has a dual power supply. The Sonos 1000, Sonos Tenor analog devices, they only have one power supply. It's useful to note that because there is a question about how many power sockets which you're going to need in the comms room when we get onto the comms room survey. Placement of analog gateways, they can be placed close to a central MDF or main distribution frame. so that makes it good for the analog devices to be then punched down onto a frame. Other rules for design preparation, as I put in here, not known, so it should be good to go for a deployment. Default site settings, this is where you need to put in the default country code, as an example, +1 for North America. Area code, I'm just going to make this one up, 123. Default local code, it could be 456. I think you guys get the idea. Default email domain, again just drop down the menu or hit the plus key. Then you get the first menu up here, want to search. Name is US-BLM. And it's not taking it. We'll cross that bridge when another time we'll move on.
So in that case, Chris, would they move on, or should they be telling somebody that?
They would record that on the survey.
Okay.
So kind of like there is a comment section down the bottom here. Kind of put, because some of this this survey has already been filled in, it's not letting me enter it. I'm clicking on the element here, and I would then put in there unable to enter the default email domain. It's just not letting me do it. Site code. No. Again, this is something you could put into the HIP chat as well. Unable to enter that, and then I will look at it and we'll raise something with Unify. Other details, operators and carriers. Operator of the LAN environment, straightforward, it's the local area team. Operator for WAN access, Alpha, or it could be Verizon or whoever the telco provider is. PBX operator, field services. I believe for the up and coming North American sites, the US sites coming up this week and next week, the manufacturer or the maintainer is Black Box. They will be available for the second day to answer all your telephony questions. So again, when you sit down with the POC on your first day, make sure you explain that you want to cover as much as possible on the network related side of things, comms room survey, and just leave the remaining second day for telephony elements. Going on to the rooms. On the top here there's an explanation. This is the detailed information you need to find. This is where the components refer to even elements like the telephone system or existing voice system, the MDF frame, any shelves or gateways from gateways. They could have some like different types of cabinets or something, or just different types of shelves where you may have an extension from a main PBX in another building. The network termination point, the incoming circuits from the provider. We need to find out where that is. The local area equipment, so i.e. like the network switch, make sure there's one of those in the comms room or where you're going to install the gateway, and any new gateways, i.e. the Sonos. So you need to create an object for each room. So as an example, we know from the high-level design document there's going to be 4 gateways installed, 1 Sonos 1000 and 3 analog gateways. When you're creating the rooms, find space in the rack. I don't mean to teach you to suck eggs, but you guys have probably done this a few times before. You'll find a space which is in between, say, the current telephone system, or where it's close to the MDF frame for the analog side. You'll then check to make sure the power outlets, there's enough power. Ideally, just one point for you guys, this is telephony we're talking about here. It is advisable that it's connected on a UPS circuit. It could cause potential problems if there's like a power cut and people try to call 911, because there's going to be no telephone service working if they've got Skype for Business. So ideally a UPS circuit or circuits, especially on the Sonos 2000 when you've got multiple power supplies in the box. Make sure it's on a UPS and different circuits if possible. Ideal world, you'll have multiple, at least 2 UPS circuits. We also need to know the location of existing and new components. So have a quick look at what else they've got racked. I don't want a complete history of the Cisco switch they may have in the top of the rack number 3. I don't want the serial number. Just quickly jot it down, like they may have a Cisco switch or 48 port fiber switch or whatever device, or riverbed device connected in rack number 4. Just brief overview. I'm more interested about where we're going to be placing the voice over IP gateways, the Sonuses, the location where the telephone system is. That is the main information I'm after.
And
this will then lead on to the next point.
I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt. At this point, they should be labeling the rack as well, right? They should label the reserve space for the rack when they do this, or is that later?
Yeah. You could do it now once you've identified where you're going to put it. Just take a bit of tape or something and say, okay, I'm going to put it, agree with the point of contact. You know, some of these guys can be a bit funny about where stuff goes, but just agree with them, okay, we're going to put it here, put a bit of tape on the rack, reserved, and then even take a photograph of it. If you're on the side of the rack, if they have like positions or the amount of U where you're going to use it, even indicate installs. All these devices are 1 U high, so as an example, install Sonos 1000 20 U on the 20th U position, and so on. So in the rooms, the actual drop-down tab, as you can see, this is blank. What we'd need you to do is hit the green button. This is where it's now opening up the other windows for you and the other tabs. So we've got the other 6 tabs here, which kind of cover the room general, electric power, rack design, components, cabling and attachments. Additionally, for attachments, what we're referring to here is photographs of the comms room, photographs of the cabinet, where you propose to put it, or the cabinets. Ideally, I would like a photograph of the NTE, the incoming PSTN circuit. Even better if you can take a photograph of the circuit ID coming in from the carrier. And if you can then trace the cabling which is going to the current telephone system, identify where it's coming or how it's connected to the current telephone system, what shelf, what card, what port. Even if you then put a bit of label around it at the far end by the where it goes into the telephone system, that would be ideal for us because it's easy to identify when it comes to the next step in this. Once you've identified the cable and you put a label around it, please take a photograph. Attachments can actually be uploaded into the once we click on the attachments section, you can upload those in various different formats and JPEG format. Also as well, do a quick drawing of the comms room. I'm not looking for a complete architect scale drawing. Just on a bit of paper, draw it in pen with approximate positions of the NTE, approximate cable lengths, different elements in the rooms where the rack layouts are, on the piece of paper, take a photograph of that, and then upload it. Pictures speak 1,000 words, to be honest with you. So if you can send this in, that'll be great. So just going back to the room general. Location and type. As you can see here, we've got a yellow box which has appeared. This tells me that it needs data input. So building, let's put it in the, let's call it with Bloomington, so main office, ground floor. So when I move on to the next element, I've now got a green tick. That tells me the data has been accepted. Floor, ground. Mind you, I guess you guys call it the first floor, don't you? You're probably giggling to yourselves. Room number. Could be just, it may not have a room number, but room 201. Room name. Type of room. It could be cabling room, MDF, server room. Just select whatever it is. Room security. Ideally, all the it's a high security room, but I'm sure we've all been in different areas. So that's one element of the location and type fielding. I've got green ticks, which is good. Required room changes. Additional racks. It does happen. You go there and the current data rack is full. You may need to say we need more data or another rack. We need more power outlets. Room security could be totally open and you're letting members of the public walk in for all we know. So please record it here. Electric power, again, drop down menu, make sure there's plenty of power outlets available, check the type of power outlets to be used, because sometimes it's not just literally the wall outlet type plugs we need. Sometimes we need to make sure we order the correct, you may get the power distribution units in the back of a cabinet and they're like different type of IEC type lead. So electric properties, click on there, power options, let's choose UPS outlets, different circuits available. It's a single power circuit. Number of required standard power outlets, we don't need standard because we're going to go for UPS. Number of UPS powered outlets, 4, 1 for each of the gateways. Number of existing UPS powered outlets, let's say there may be 6 available. Type of power outlets. Now I've just dropped down this menu here and you're kind of thinking, well, what's a H, I, J and K? If you scroll down a little bit further, and it's probably loading on your page now, the different types of plugs which are available. I mean, as an example, for your side of the water, I think you guys use a type B and potentially type B1, depending on the socket. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier on, we see the power distribution units in the racks, and they may just have these type ones, like the A1 type connector. So we need you to be your eyes on that one and tell us what it is. So type of power outlets, just select it here, so type B as an example. Any required changes, any additional outlets, any UPS expansion, it may be a case of just add the details there as an example, no UPS circuits. Rack design, as we mentioned earlier on, what we're looking to do here is find a home for this equipment, so we need the rack name and number. Combined component, PBX, LAN switch, where we're going to connect to. So rack number 1, there's space up to 5 different racks here. So rack number 1 could be, for instance, data network. List contains Cisco. They may even have, say, HP, SAN in there.
Sorry, Tommy. Did you say something?
And so on and so on. I think you guys get the idea. Rack number 2 could be the voice. contain components. We're going to do the and then I'd say there's up to 5 elements. Once you've completed the data, you can click OK or click Save, then OK. I'm not going to click anything on this one. I'm hoping to cancel out of this and not record any of my details, because this is a survey to be done next week. Components and circuits.
Well,
If there's
Chris,
a voice system.
just real quick, the
Yeah.
one thing to mention, I know that Juan's brought up a lot, is Chris isn't pushing save, but you guys should be doing it very frequently, because we have had issues with GVTA, so I would be pressing that save frequently, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Basically, as soon as you finish one little section, please click Save. Just so you guys know, this this tool is hosted in a data center in northern Germany. So I know we got the gods of the internet, but it can bite us sometimes. So make sure you do hit save quite often, because you may find that you've entered something and you go back 5 minutes later and the data's not there anymore. So please hit save as many times as Jack's mentioned. Components and circuits. Voice systems located in the room. Just hit the search and then type in the site code. New components, surveys, gateways, SVCs. Just go on there. I may need to enter these in another area. I'm just going to try this. US-BLM search. Okay. Just searched on the gateway. As I mentioned earlier on, there's 4 devices. This detail's already been actually input in there for you via Unify. So the first device is the main session border controller. So just click OK on that. That's now added. Double click on that object and it's opened up another window. Component ID, it's already added as the frequent FQDN number, the fully qualified domain name. Component type, Sonos 1000. Rack and stack information, click location. So let's select the room where it's going to be installed. Because I've not saved anything from the previous works I've done in the comms room, it's not going to pick it up here. If I'd saved it, you would see it would auto start populating in the survey. So you'd automatically fill it in, or it will auto-fill here. Ports and IP addressing. Again, this is where we tend to have a lot of problems getting information from Unify or from Nestle. The amount of LAN ports that we require for this, for each gateway, would be 1 IP address for management. So you can search here on this. LAN port number. This is where you would actually find out from the customer where you're actually going to connect it to their physical switch. So it could be 2/1. Type of component, RJ45. The FQDN of the LAN switch. Port number. Type of cable. Cable length in meters. So how far from where the gateway is to the switch. Yeah. Because I'm not hitting save or anything, it's kind of not letting me do a few bits. The other elements which you would start adding onto this is talking to the point of contact. He would then be able to give you all this information. The VLAN, configured subnet. This is all of the physical Nestle network. And again, you guys may think it's pretty straightforward to get this detail. This has proved quite difficult sometimes. They should have this available for you. Connected circuits and trunks. Again, because we've not entered the trunk details yet, we would need to, let me just search on it, since they've already put it in, US dash, no, it's not come up yet. Cancel. That would be for the first session border controller. Add in the analog gateways. Again, we can search. This would be the first analog gateway, just looking at the fully qualified domain name, 01. Add the others. No. I'll have a look at that. Now we'll now search and put in the endpoints, NTE, CSU or multiplexer. I know there's a lot of clicking and auto-filling, but once you start getting some more of the survey completed, it will help fall through for the rest of the survey. I need to look at that. Cabling and ports. Depending on the type of connection you're going to be doing, if it to a patch panel, type of outlets, RJ11 or RJ45, if you're going to use a punch down block, or if cabling ends on a PBX from the analog side, it could go down to like an MDF. Again, put it into the details where it's going to be. It's either going to be the cabling type to patch panels, to punch down blocks, or it's going to go onto an MDF. Cables from the PBX end, they may actually go to a punch down block or even to a patch panel. So it's depending on what you guys see. If you need to add any more detail, please have the detail here. Placement of analog media gateways. Drop down menu, where are they going to be going? Based on the high level design, they can be placed in a rack close to, or it could be placed on in a rack and it's port cable to the MDF via patch cables, or it could go on a wall. It's down to you to decide where the best position for these racks are, where to rack the devices. Any additional information which you need to add, any comments about the state of the cabling or unable to identify an element, please record it on Jacques' feedback form and also onto the survey here. Any attachments of the comms room, they can then upload the devices. Just search, for instance, on your PC or via a web URL. Once you've done that, click OK. One thing to note as well, we have noticed it can be a bit slow. You can only upload at least 1 or 2 pictures at a time. I believe one has found that. Is that correct, Jacques?
Yeah, it's been worse in South America, but yeah, even in the U.S., they had issues more than 1 or 2 at a time.
Okay. Just going to hit cancel for the moment because I don't want anything to be saved. WAN and LAN. This is more detailed on the actual Nestle infrastructure. This is something which you can easily get covered on the first day. The site's connected via an MPLS network. Some of these sites don't even have the MPLS. With the MPLS, they've got the thing elements onto the main core, so it makes it easier in terms of no need for an SBA. But check with the point of contact. If they're going to be the deployment date, this is mainly in terms of when are they going to deploy the Sonos gateway. I'd suggest you guys leave this blank because we've seen various different dates moving on this, and at the end of the day this is down for Nestle and Unify to agree, subject to the data gathered on this survey. Again, a lot of this element's been filled in by others, but check with the customer. LAN readiness, sometimes they say they're ready for Wi-Fi, but it's not even in place sometimes. Multiple access points, etc., etc. Again, IP address information. This detail needs to be provided via the Nestle guys. I mean, at the moment they've got switch there. That's actually not right. The FQDN should be something like US BLM N. But again, this should be provided by Nestle, because the details which are entered here falls through into the other menus. Again, with the configured subnets and all the other IP address details. NTP servers, they can enter the details here if they have them. SMTP, we don't normally, I don't think Nestle use SMTP servers. Time zone, whatever time zone you're in, I'm guessing it's something like about +5 hours. So it'd be GMT +5. Course settings, just put a question mark on that and put it as a mention, because that's down to Nestle to know whether they've got quality of service enabled. That's that tab completed. Microsoft environment. Again, this is really stuff which you can cover with the point of contact on day one. I wouldn't expect you guys to be able to say, yes, that Active Directory based routing is implemented. It's not down to us, that's down to Nestle to make sure. They sure aren't going to give us the username and password anyway for admin sign on this. The other windows, link SCAR for business deployment. This is where they're indicating there's going to be 125 users deployed. Expected number of analog endpoints. You see the number there's 0, but then again you can ask the question of them, why is this 0 when we're installing 3 24-port analog gateways? It's a question for them. They may not be able to answer that. You then get executive users. They may want a better IP handset and number of office workers. Factory workers is up to 420. They may not be in the initial rollout. Also, it's indicated here, link SCAR for business rollout as possible with the location. Exchange Unified messaging offices, drop down the menu. It's down to the site to tell you what's going to happen here, whether they'll be using Unified messaging. Same again with voicemail dialing. Typically, I don't believe they select any voicemail dialing for this. Conference dialing, again, I don't think that's going to be enabled, but it's down to Nestle. Endpoints. Check to make sure everybody's on at least Windows 7 or they're using iOS devices. The mobile endpoints use Apple iOS. So again, this is to be completed by the point of contact. He may have to go off and talk to his other guys, his Microsoft team within the help desk within Nestle, but this is details he needs. Voice services, various different elements on here now. Looking at the explanation, This is where we create the PSTN circuit or circuits for networking. Um, so here we have, if you go to voice ports, how many analog ports? We need to make sure this is the amount of active ports on a site. So I think we saw somewhere around about 7. We're putting in 3 24-port boxes. So we're talking around about, let's say, 70 something analog ports. Digital ports or UPX. This is the actual amount of digital phones. UPX is digital phones. Number of VoIP ports, or any subscribers. So if they have got a voice over IP system in place, this is where to implement it. And the same again for the rest of the subjects here. Primary basic rate ISDN or S0, it's only really my side of the water. Number of digital ports used for endpoints, not for networking. So if they have, for instance, had another connection going to another site, there may be an internal trunk. So it may be just, this is where you'd actually put that information there. DECT phones, Skype for Business and DECT, it doesn't really work. There's no real solution for it at the moment, which is why we may tend to still find that we're using a current telephone system. Especially as this is a factory site, you're getting lots of guys walking around with the DECT handsets. So this is why we need to make sure we're aware of this, because if we switch off the telephone system, those guys with DECT handsets won't work anymore. So again, we need this recorded. Virtual ports, this is all to do with routing on a telephone system, where you may get a call plan where it routes a call to extension 1234, but the destination on the virtual port could be 5678. Number of internal codes, number of special ports, as you mentioned earlier on. This could be for door entry systems, pager systems, radio systems, whatever analog. It could even be for elevator emergency phones. Typically they would have their own dedicated PSTN circuit, but sometimes they could go to the telephone system. We'll need to know that. PBX internal code digits for extensions. Sometimes there may be a short code for ringing certain extensions. We need to know how many digits there. Public numbers or networking numbers. Number of existing Skype for Business clients. Some of them, we have had some sites where they've been trialing Skype for Business already. And number of unused ports. That's basically from the current telephone system that may have available ports. PSTN network and connectivity. In the PowerPoint slide I showed you earlier on, I mentioned about GWAM or BT1 voice. Typically what this is, it's basically a private circuit where the PSTN connectivity allows people to dial out locally to local numbers, but if they want to call someone in Switzerland or another Nestle location, they would dial this, and it's typically a specific dialing code, or there may be a pre-programmed number. So as soon as you see this number being entered on a keypad, use this route and it will go across the Nestle network. We have been caught on this on a couple of other sites, so please be aware and make sure you ask the question about GWAN. If it has GWAN, yes or no, please implement it. Amount of PSTN circuits or networking interfaces, is there one or there's two? In accordance with the high-level design, there was only one T1 coming in. Then direct dialing from PSTN, is this possible? So basically, does it allow for people to dial from the outside world to anyone's extension in the building? Check with the on-site point of contact. He may not know this. You may need to talk to the black box guy on day 2 for this. But this is what he should be able to tell you, especially in terms of the configuration and the amount of circuits. Main phone number from site. So is there any specific other ranges they can dial? Also, any comments? There's one direct inward dial with 8 members. There's one tie trunk with 24 channels going to Verizon. There's one RSDM with 24 channels, so a T1's worth. Check these circuits, these comments with the black box guy. Now we actually come to add the circuit. So click on the green circuit number. Again, it could be whatever designator they call the circuit. Circuit type, it's an existing PSTN. Type of circuit, it's digital line PRI. What it should be. And once you click save, that would then say no. Once I'd select save, it would have filled it out here. It would then open up another menu where it tells you the type of circuit. It would say an existing PSTN circuit. It would also then cover the protocol. Just by looking at a cable coming in from the NTE, there's no way you're going to know what protocol is being used. You would need to know this detail from the telephone man, from the man on day 2, black box. He would tell you the protocol, be it BZ8S or something, or HDB3. He'd tell you what the circuit phone number is. It'd also tell you other details in terms of line coding, also the framing type being used. These are all details that we need to add on this. The voice system, there is a voice system in place. There is there's one entered here, it's the Avaya, the model's Definity. If we just double click on this, we can have a look at some more detail on it. We can see the general voice properties, the different type of telephone system it is. It's a classical PBX where you've just got the PSTN going into one central cabinet with users connected to that. On larger sites, you may find that there's like a various mixture of voice over IP or multiple cabinets. It really does depend. Location of the system, it's located in the server room. Please, you may need to add some detail here. Please provide the location of equipment. System redundancy, again you can cover this with the telephone man. He will be able to give you more detail. PSTN circuits, this is where if we'd have added them previously, we'd have seen that it's a primary rate ISDN. We'd have been able to see the circuit label being detailed here, circuit general type, protocol, etc., etc. Networking circuits, well there won't be any networking circuits of this because going to other voice systems. Any additional information, please add details here. Attachments, maybe the attachment could be the actual Definity itself, and take a photograph of it, where the connections are going on the back of the Definity, add that detail there. Team functions, this is actually, again, which you talk to the telephone man about. Call hunting groups, are they in place? Call pickups, etc. Boss admins, minimal switchboard groups. If you need more detail on this, there could be an attendance console, or there may not. So if you've got the main incoming receptionist, all calls may go through her, or you may be able to dial her a specific number, and then it will go through to the receptionist. Also as well, emergency desk. Sometimes we'll see an element where if an internal user dials 911, depending on the configuration of the telephone system, it may actually go through to the main receptionist or to a security guard. I've actually been on sites where that's been the case, and again you had to ask the question. So you think you're ringing up for a fire department and all you're doing is talking to Joe, the security guard down the road. So you need to ask this question is, please don't take anything that is all granted. You do need to check things with these guys. Systems functions or special voice features, music on hold, alarming server. It's not a case of a telephone system running scared. It's basically what's happening to the any alarms, any line alarms. Is it being recorded anywhere? We do need details on this because this has been one of the things that's been flagged up as a potential thing we need to get cleared. It's not been cleared on the previous meetings. What are they doing? Oh, Jacques was always getting fed up with listening to my voice.
No, I'm sorry.
Paging.
That was an accident. I'm sorry.
You was getting bored and you was falling asleep listening to me, weren't you? Again, just check any elements. I mean, alarming server, they say there's no alarming server in place. There's a description down here. Please put a description in here about the no elements required on this, or alarming server is connected to such and such. You'll find that out from the telephone man. Any radio systems, call recording. We do see it where there may be a call centre on site, and they may, or it might be a legal office, or there may be a legal department within the building, and there may be a call recording. We obviously need to make allowances for this when they're configuring the Skype for Business. Same again with billing and accounting. PBXs tend to count how many dollars and cents are being used on phone calls, so please record these details. Messaging functionalities. Is there a voicemail system in place? Is it integrated with the PBX? It could be an adopted one or centralized elsewhere. Just choose from the drop-down menu here, or they may have no voicemail in place. No unified messaging in place. Again, drop-down menu, select an option from here. IVR, interactive voice response. Looks like there's no call center on here or contact center. So again, just double check these things. Special endpoints, depending on the type of location, it could have various different elements. As I mentioned earlier on, you've already been asked this before in some of the surveys a bit further up. Any specific type of handsets, devices, no door entry points, there's no other media gateways connected. There's no automatic call distribution with enabled or call center in place. DECT server and endpoints. Yes, there's a DECT server in place, which is interesting because further up the survey, if you notice here, 0 for DECT. So again, you need to double check the guys. Just scrolling back down. Call routing or routing. This is where we could find out about the GWAM, any special call routing in place. This is in terms of what number manipulations has been entered on the telephone system. So check with them what special call routing there is, especially if you're going to dial, say for instance, GWAN. Does it automatically add the country code? What does it do basically? We need to ask the question. Other services and applications, basically depending on the other types of elements or anything else weird and wonderful happening on that telephone system, let us know. I mean, other services may be a case of they may have a special handset for someone that may have disabilities. You may have an attendant console which requires an extra volume on there. So we need as much detail as possible. Any comments? As you can see here in the comments, I've put down wireless analog phones connected to the PBX. Administrators call in, enter a code, and that allows them to call out. Okay, that allows them to get some free phone calls then. Okay, just going to move on to the next tab. If you guys are still hanging in there, we're nearly there. Active components, mentioned this a little bit before. This is where we'd enter all the voice gateways, the details there. As an example, if we just clicked on the main session border controller, rack and stack information, you'd have thought, well, I've just entered all that in one of the previous tabs. Again, if we'd have filled out the tab and hit save, this information will be auto-populated. If it's not auto-populated, just click on the search button, search on the city and the site, and it will pop up and it should autofill. Ports and IP addressing. Again, I hear you groaning. Oh, we just done all that earlier. This information will all be auto-populate once it's completed. Circuits and trunks. Again, just search. No, because we didn't do any autosave, it's not taking it. Voice DID database and groups. This is where we need a PBX configuration from the telephone man, which lists each user, their name, their extension number, their telephone number, and the type of device they're using, be it an analog phone or a digital phone or whatever type of telephone they're using. We have already asked for this information. If they can supply us this information in an Excel spreadsheet, that'll be good. This is what you would ask the black box guy. Additional information you want from them is any specific groups. Is anybody set up as a hunt group? What users are part of boss admin? Any specific numbers we dial with the shortcodes and the programming. This is detail we need from them. Again, they have already been asked, but this is one of the first questions you need to ask from the PBX guy. Once you have this information, you can then, if he supplies you with an Excel spreadsheet, you can then simply add it as a file into this location. I mentioned that high-level design which I showed you earlier on. There is a PDF version, and one which I showed you is here. As you're going through the survey, you'll be adding stuff to this. Be advised, as Jacques mentioned earlier on, 1 or 2 at a time. You try and do more, it has problems. Any photos, add them in JPEG, attachments, figures, photos, whatever. Once you've done all this, you can click Finish Questionnaire. If we click there, we can click Save, and then what we'd see in this area here is a lot of ticks. If there's no ticks, then there'll be elements showing where there's errors and you need to complete more details. Is everybody still alive, or are you falling asleep? Jack?
I'm here. They're all muted, so but I'm sure that everybody's still there. I think. I don't know if they're asleep or not, but.
I don't know. I've probably been watching the latest television show.
Hopefully not, because this, are you good with the GVTA?
Obviously, guys, that is a really fast way through it, and there's a few buttons which we couldn't show you because it wasn't auto-filling.
I just think
however,
the thing is just to go from the first tab and slowly through. I mean, I think there's no field in there that they don't have to touch and at least verify, right? So, I mean, they're just going to go through the whole thing.
Absolutely, and as the majority of you guys, it's going to be the first one. I mean, myself and Jacques will be available on the HIP chat. So if get a how do I or what does this mean again, just put it on HIP chat, guys. And then we take it from there. That's the benefit of HIP chat. It
Yeah,
really is useful for that.
it's
I
really
mean,
proven useful to be able to get it, not only the people that are normally on it, but if we need to bring another resource in real quick, we can send them a link to it. So it's been great. I'm going to go ahead and share now real quick, Chris.
yeah, sure.
Just real quick, a couple follow-up that I noted while Chris was speaking is, when we're doing everything, not only the survey, but like he said, a picture's 1,000 words. So if you got a question of something, you're seeing a piece of equipment there and you're not sure what it is, or we're not sure what to do with something. I mean, throw a picture in chat, and just say, hey, need some help, because that'll save us time in trying to figure out, us, I'm saying mostly Chris, but that'll save us a lot of time trying to it'll save us a lot of time trying to track down what you're talking about, and especially going into the F2s or the F1 installations and the F3 server, all that stuff. So as you're entering any information in a GUI or something while you're configuring these systems, take a picture before you move from page to page so we know what you put in there and we can prove it. The other thing I just saw somebody wrote they've never used HipChat. Yeah, it's a great tool. It's a little bit slower for pictures uploading than, let's say, a WhatsApp, but it's really been a great tool if you really use it as it should be used. I mean, there's really not a lot of follow-up after these jobs. Just to
Mm.
go into survey tips by Chris, if there's anything, Chris, you've covered a lot in the GVTA, but I think, pictures, room drawings, they don't have to be architectural drawings, but, sketch out a nice plan of the room. The rack, sketch out a good rack drawing. Again, it can be with crayon and paper, but just so it's legible, and, think of somebody else looking at it and saying, yes, this is something that will help them understand the room. Making sure to have that meeting initially with the point of contact, like I said earlier, is critical, and it'll help you in the long run, and it'll save you some frustration. Um, what else, Chris? Anything else that we could mention?
Um, you may find, as I mentioned earlier on, you may find that point of contact gets a bit frustrated and says, I've already provided this information. Just nod and say yes or no, but I'm just verifying it, because they may have provided this information already to Unify in the pre-questionnaire. Because as you've seen, you've got the high-level design already kind of mapped out. Maybe during your initial meeting you have with the point of contact, say based on your previous conversations you've had with Unify, that then sets the picture, and even then say, I may be asking you for details that you've already supplied, I just need to record them. So you may get the comment, I've already supplied this data, why do you need it again? If they're totally adamant and are not going to provide it, please record this and let Jacques and I know. We then feed that back in, because we don't want to get 2 weeks later down the road and Unify say, you haven't supplied the IP addresses, you've not put them in. Something you think is so basic. We've had it, guys, where they won't tell us the information, they don't have it. Maybe they haven't configured the VLANs on the switch. Maybe they don't know what ports they're going to use. Record it that you've asked the POC and he doesn't know.
And that's all we need to do,
Yeah, it makes our life so much easier. And once you get 1 or 2 of these under your belt, it's surprising how smoothly it goes. The main thing is to be methodical. Don't think, great, I can get all this wrapped up in 1 day. You have at least 2 days to do one of these surveys. Take your time. Make sure you're answering stuff accurately in terms of estimating for cable or cable lengths between devices. I'd rather you, like, say you're going to be another 5 feet over than 5 feet short on a cable. Rather have too much than not enough.
And make sure that the point of contact understands what they need to do the first morning. And that also, if you find that resistance, nobody sees that chat but us. If you find that resistance right off the bat, that you don't feel like this is going to go well, put that right in chat right away. POC doesn't seem to have a handle, or POC has 3 meetings today, can't meet with me till 2 p.m. POC is leaving at lunchtime today. All that stuff is critical because Chris can turn around and go right back to Unify and say, look, we need another POC then. That communication is critical.
We have had it where the POC went out for lunch for 3 hours.
We've had a POC in South America that was the security guard. So
yeah, so we've had it all. Well, I'm sure we haven't. Hopefully, there's not going to be more surprises than the security guard one. But as soon as we have that information, and HipChat's great for that, because even before you got on the Nestle Wi-Fi, just ping it back on your cell phone. Jack and I will then look at that, and I'll be straight onto the project manager.
And then
it surprises Nestle how quick, once we want to flag something up to them, how we can get back to them so quick.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention is I didn't do this in South America, Chris, but I think I'm going to do it now. And I'm going to send you guys that are doing D2 surveys the F1 guides, statement of work. Just keep them separate. Don't get confused. But it might be helpful. We didn't do this on purpose in South America, but maybe it would be helpful to you guys to see the equipment you're putting in, the guide of what you have to do when you put in the equipment. That could be helpful during the survey too. So I'll get you that. I'm going to unmute Chris, do you have anything else?
There is a GVTA guide as well.
They have it.
Which, they have it, do they?
Yep.
Sometimes the pictures aren't as clear as possible, but could be a quick reference manual for you. But I think a lot of the menus are pretty straightforward. If you do get any questions, just open a quick chat, and Jacques or I get back to you.
And what we're starting to do now with these surveys, since they're so complicated, as soon as we post a job on your work order, we're going to be opening up the chat. So you might see a chat a week before the survey, but we'll be adding stuff in there. And like Chris just said, if you have a question, like you're going through one of the documents, feel free to ask us. We might not be able to get to you right away, but this is in advance of the survey. Feel free to do that. I'm going to open up the mics now, and Chris and I will stay here if you guys have questions. If you don't and need to go, I know we're running way late. I really appreciate the time today. Hopefully we have a lot of surveys, and it's each facility is up to 10 days of labor for you, so that's great, and I appreciate you coming. If you have any questions, you can email them, or we'll sit another 10 minutes or so. Chris and I, as I unmute these mics, don't flood us, but if you have questions, Chris, is that okay for about 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, so everybody's unmuted if anybody wants to talk about anything relating to this, and then if not, we'll just hang up the call.
Hey, this is Carl Prude in Southern California. Thanks for the webinar, and I have a quick question. What is the turnaround time from the time we complete our surveys to the system actually being installed, implementation?
It's like 3 years, right, Chris?
Something like that, yeah. To be honest with you, Carl, what happens is once the survey form's been submitted, I'll review it myself, and then I'll say to Unify, yep, everything's done. If there's anything glaringly outstanding, like you've asked the question of the point of contact and he's not giving you the detail, I'll tell them we're waiting for that detail over to you. They will then contact contact Nestle and fill in the blanks. So typically it can take potentially maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks between survey if there's no problems. If the equipment's on site, we've even had it where the next stage is the stage of the F1, which is classed as F1, where the equipment gets installed. All you need for that really is IP addresses. So we've had it before where we've done a D2 survey, got all the data information, and as the equipment's there, they've wanted us to rack the equipment the next day, which we can do, because all you're doing is putting in a management IP address, connecting it to the Nestle network. You then ask the local Nestle point of contact, can you connect to the device? Once he's connected to the device from his Nestle laptop and verify connectivity, that's you kind of done on that stage. Now that's then over to Unify to configure the gateway totally.
Yeah, I think in South America we're probably 3+ weeks but I think it's going to be quicker here because I think we're going to go through these surveys quicker too, Chris. And I mean, there's going to be, you know, this is just the start. There's going to be a ton of these happening going into 2017. So I don't know. I would say 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, right, Chris? I mean, that's probably average.
Yeah,
Are we decommissioning your existing equipment?
No, not at this stage. There's no plans at the moment for decommissioning. Maybe eventually, but there's no indicated plan.
Okay.
We are actually starting to see requests, but there's no indicated plan yet.
And obviously our plan from Jenga Tech's point of view is, you know, whoever does the survey does the whole project, obviously, because there's usefulness to that. So we try to keep you guys up to date as quickly, you know, as best we can. You know, it doesn't always, you know, work out great for timing, but we try to, you know, conform to the tech schedule to get these done because, of course, we want the same person to go through the whole process. You know, for planning, we try to, you know, we try to give you as much advance warning as possible. Any other questions?
Hi, this is Brian here in Solon, Ohio. Just a quick question. If on the F1, if you've configured the IP information and you have it connected to the network, and they can't remotely connect the point of contact, how do you proceed then?
Obviously, it depends on the port you're connecting to, because you should follow the guide. The install says to use the first Ethernet port, configure the main IP address of the unit on that. Before you connect it to the Nestle network, if you would confirm that you can, if you change your laptop to be in the same IP address subnet as the configured address or the Nestle configured address, use a back-to-back cable or a straight-through cable, connect to that, and then verify you can physically get to it using the Nestle address. Once you can verify you're getting it via your PC, on the Sonos 2000 or the Sonos 1000, they actually have a web browser you can connect to. You need to use a HTTPS, then whatever the IP address assigned for the gateway, and then that should take you through to the config page of the Sonos. So to answer your question, verify it locally, that you can connect locally to it with your PC configured in the configured subnet which you've entered onto port number 1 of the Sonos gateway. Open up your web browser, Firefox, Chrome or Explorer, HTTPS into it. You'll then get a page saying, do you want to proceed to this site because it's a HTTPS site. Click yes, and then you should be good to go. Once you're happy that you can still get connected, disconnect the your back crossover cable, and then connect a straight cable into port number 1 into the switch which has been nominated. If Nestle still cannot get connected to it, ask Nestle if they can ping the default gateway. Once they can verify they can get that, ask them, has the switch port you've just plugged it into, has that been enabled into the VLAN? Because I've spent about an hour, wasted an hour and a half yesterday on the customer site because they forgot to add the ports into the VLAN.
So if you're able to view it locally and they haven't configured the VLAN, the F1 is successful as far as that our portion of it, or what?
Once check to make sure. Once you're able to connect to it locally and they're still having network issues, or no one's configured or cannot confirm to you that the port you've plugged it into is in the correct VLAN, they would still need to investigate it.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, we're never done until we're released anyways, so
yeah,
you'll be updating these issues in the chat, and hopefully we're working on it at the same time. So somebody would eventually say to you, Brian, you know what, we can't go any further.
yeah,
We'd be feeding you things to try.
yeah.
You can't get any further. You might as well get a sign off and get out of there. So
At the end of the day, Brian, at the end of the day, Brian, you would have done everything you can because you've checked it locally using a crossover cable or straight through into port number 1. You can verify that you've configured your laptop into that same subnet as what Nestle have given you, and you can hit it fine. It's a Nestle networking issue.
Yeah, I mean, we've
with the
several
VLAN.
ones with
Yeah,
VLAN issues.
I'm saying as the VLAN, it could be something else, but it's their problem. I know,
Okay.
and then you can sit there happy and dumb. It's their problem, but unfortunately, we still can't leave until either the time's got to the 5 o'clock, or they say, "Look, guys, it's not going to be today." I'm afraid it's just the way it goes.
And I don't think Brian's
What about this?
Sorry.
What about the tenor? Same
hold
for
up,
that.
Brian,
Yeah.
hold up. Let's just wrap up the D2 stuff. Does anybody else have any survey questions? I'm happy to answer those, Brian. I just don't want to hold people up. Anybody else have any? If I'm see people are dropping off, so we appreciate your time, and you know, if you want to go ahead and head out, I know it's almost 12 now, so please do. But go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No problem. Now, what about the tenor as far